So I'd like to introduce Mike now, and he's going to share his presentation. Okay.
I'm Mike Perrins. I'm from the IT department, where I act as the value architect, bit of an uncommon role, but we'll see a bit of what I sort of do through this sort of presentation. And the main aim of what I'm talking about today is looking into a bit of work that we did over the last kind of year, trying to understand our workforce as part of our Dudley digital plan, as well as using a methodology known as SFIA, or Skills Framework for the Information Age. So when I say I'm from the IT department, we do a little bit more than just resetting computers and asking you to fill out tickets. Specifically around the digital strategy team and our informatics directorate, we work with the market to try and understand new technologies to help frontline workers, and in the process of mapping out all of the different services that are going on in the trust, and how that relates to our data, how that relates to the technology that we're using, how we can use that to optimize our approach. And as part of this digital plan that I've mentioned, we set these long-term plans with our different divisions. I'll go into a little bit of IT propaganda in a minute, but using our data, we're looking to achieve quite a few ambitious sort of outcomes. And these being set across the 5 different strategic goals across the trust. And many of these you'll sort of see over the next couple of years if we're successful. Hopefully we will be, but you'll sort of see how we're looking to optimize the electronic patient record, looking to drive sustainability, moving towards the net carbon neutrality. As you can sort of imagine, having heaps of data centers whirring away day in and night eats up a bit of the electricity. So we're moving to different approaches that we can sort of eradicate that. And then finally, a general just modernization, as we're fully aware with the NHS, we're using systems that are getting outdated now. So our big push is to move to the cloud, and as part of that, having a fully new modern approach to how IT, technology, data is all used within the trust. So propaganda out of the way, I'll go into a bit of detail with how this is all what we've been working on and what's that meant for our team. So digital transformation, you've probably seen that over, since COVID, there's been a massive spike in the use of digital, use of technology, just using Teams for this alone. The need for use of digital has massively boomed. And, using our older systems, our older sort of mainframes and all the cables and the wires in these dark dingy rooms just wasn't going to be cutting it moving forward. So over the last kind of year, we've moved to the cloud. Basically, that just means that we can be a lot more agile with how we operate, and gives us a lot of opportunities, such as a lot of those strategic goals, such as increasing the upgrade the electronic patient record, and moving to be more sustainable. However, what that's also meant is that whilst that's all great and having new technology is amazing and really useful for frontline workers, it's meant that those within the IT department, especially informatics, have had to really up their sort of skill set. So not going back a few years ago, you may have thought, oh, informatics, just number crunching all day, pumping out a few reports, great. However, now you'll sort of see from a bit of work that we've been working on, we wanted to identify what skills we have within the IT department and move forward, because over the last year or so, you can sort of see there's a big boom in the number of digital roles within the NHS, and just in the West Midlands alone, there's about 300 active vacancies, so pretty competitive at the moment. So if we don't do something to retain our sort of talent, we're going to get stuck pretty quickly. So understanding our skills, initially we thought it'd be relatively straightforward to get can you get a rundown of what team A, B, and C do, get an understanding of what their skills are, and so on. And it turned out it takes a lot of resource, and it's quite ambiguous how we do it. Asking different team leads, how could you give us a rundown of what each kind of person does, what each role does, where they sort of sit and their responsibilities. It takes a whole lot of time, and everyone's viewpoint on doing that is completely different. So there's no way to sort of unify everyone's kind of view. So using our DDSA approaches, the Kata board, we identified that after a few runs of this where we just weren't getting anywhere, we realized that we needed to use a methodology that basically cemented it. And whether that methodology had pros or cons, at least it's a way that everyone's using the same approach. And at least that would move us a little bit forward to a target scenario, which is basically having a fully mapped out department by November this year. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. But mainly we were using this sort of CATRA PDSA approach, where we identified this SFIA framework, which basically moved us significantly forward, because with a department of 100 odd people, 40 different kind of roles, which range from cyber to project management, software development, someone like me, benefits management, you know, there's not a one size fits all. So what do I mean by this SFIA framework? SFIA is a global tool that's essentially used across 200 different countries over the last 20 years or so. And it's essentially mapping out a whole heap of skills. You can sort of see it over here, about 120 different skills across 6 different domains. You can see across the different colors. And the unique part about this tool is that it shows the responsibility of a skill. So for example, data science, if you're level 1 in it, you're probably punching a few numbers saying, right, this is what I found. Whereas level 7, you're probably leading the policy, you're setting out the strategy, setting to the department, like this is how we're going to use this one skill in this kind of way. So quite a range. And so very quickly we moved from this very ambiguous, very sort of grey approach of, well, they kind of do that and Jim's kind of good with numbers, but go to Sue if you want to know about this too. Right, this role does this skill to this sort of level of discipline. And I think in the next slide, we can sort of see how this is set out from our informatics team. So over here, 2022 is our first run of this. And since going to cloud, you can sort of see over here, 2023, our recent sort of analysis. So analysis 1, we can see that out of the 7 levels, they came out about an average of a level 4, which kind of goes from, you have a little bit of autonomy, but generally speaking, you're following broad direction. And as you can sort of see here, a lot of the skills are focused around this kind of data analysis kind of view, and only filling about 35% of this entire catalogue. But as a sort of stereotypical informatics viewpoint, yeah, you would have thought that yeah, they're kind of, that's what you kind of expect. However, since moving to cloud, you know, the informatics team have had to develop financial management, stakeholder management, and so on. So their skills have just massively ballooned, and you can see that presented in this. So now they're more of a level 5, so much more autonomous in their sort of approach and how they do their work. They set their own, and then they sort of feed back to a wider group. And you can see that now we've got about 80% of this SFIA catalogue. And no longer are we just fixated on this little data analysis point. They're very strategically heavy. They're very sort of focused around these sort of stakeholder points. And this sort of change in how they're working has been captured by this tool, which we didn't really particularly expect it to be in this sort of follow-up in this version 2 version. But at least we can show this in our appraisals, because, you know, when you go to appraisal, say, oh, what have you learned over the last year? It can be quite difficult when you're, you know, day to day trying to answer emails, trying to get reports out, trying to set that time aside to say, oh, well, actually, I've kind of done this at the other. At least this tool can identify that for each individual person. And taking one of our architect roles, we can sort of see that, yeah, in the initial run of this, they were very, you know, data heavy, doing this reports and everything like that. You can see down here the gaps from the SFIA. So they had very focused around here. There's quite a lot of gaps. However, in this most recent review of their skills, and over the last year when they've been doing a lot of the cloud processing and moving everything in that kind of direction, you can see that their skill map has very, you know, quite drastically changed across all the different, you know, the 6 different domains, you know, going from strategy, change management, data analysis, service management, and so on. So, you know, as a department, we've seen this massive kind of change in our workforce. Taking this step one further, we, you know, data people, we want to see what else we can sort of pick out from this. So using this methodology that we've developed within Dudley, we were looking at the average sort of SFIA profile, which is what we've sort of coined as. So you can sort of see the number of skills on the left, the magnitude, and across the x-axis, the skill responsibility. And you can see as the band is, you get higher into the senior management, not only the magnitude of the skills, but the complexity of the skills significantly increased. So that was kind of a nice sense check that not only was the methodology working, but also it kind of get a, yeah, that kind of makes sense piece of data. So by doing all this, what did we learn? So firstly, we learned that there's a whole heap more skills in the department than we initially appreciated. And not only that, was that people are developing at a significantly quick rate, keeping up with technology and digital. And one of the key things that we've taken from this is that the management are using this tool as a really useful piece of kit to just manage the department. You know, we've got about 100 odd people, and in November again about another 20-25 people. So having tools like this to understand what the department is shaping up like, understand which skills are where and why and how, is helping us just run it, and just also looking out from Dudley, it's keeping us competitive. You know, if we can sort of say, oh, again, this breakdown of what your skills are, we can help you develop, you can go in this kind of direction. It's been it's changed the way we work quite heavily, and from a lot of the skills we can see how the modernization of the IT department has completely changed how not only our team work but also how our team's skills have broadened. So what's next? One of the more ambitious tasks that we have set out for ourselves is try and utilize these skills to map out sort of a development chart between all the different roles within IT. So if you're a tech engineer and you think, oh, that cyber stuff looks quite interesting, what do I need to do to get into that role? And what's the development time? What training do I need to do? So by setting out that map, and by using all these different roles set out in front of us, we're hoping that we could probably achieve that in the next 6 months or so. And another area that we're looking to develop is our digital sort of a digital network. So, you know, across the trust we have the IT, but we also have like additional roles such as digital pharmacist, digital midwife. And whilst this methodology has been used purely in the IT department so far, we're looking to expand that to see where we can sort of help people develop their digital skills. And finally, our next big kind of step is rolling this out across all the trusts in the UK. On a recent call, we were demonstrating this piece of work where some trusts are trying to recruit 160 different digital roles to fit in with this frontline digitalisation approach that's working across nationally. And it's a bit of a nightmare trying to get 160 odd people in and trying to understand which role is doing what, to what extent, and everything. So using our sort of methodology as well as this sort of framework, and we're working with a lot of trusts at the moment to help them understand their workforce and, you know, put Dudley a bit bright on that map. But thanks for listening.
I would imagine probably 80% of the job description probably have an element of digital skills within them. Yeah. I wonder if there's any ambition of starting to standardise job descriptions.
We're looking into it, like as you sort of alluded to, that's a significant piece of work that I'm working towards becoming like a SFIA consultant, and with that kind of accreditation you can sort of help shape SFIA a bit more. So for example, we're looking to create like a SFIA plus NHS, so have like SFIA framework, that's great. However, instead of just data science, instead of just project management, what about clinical safety? What about this? What about that? You know, roles, that jobs and sort of skills we see within the NHS, whether that's rolled out nationally, whatever. But we could, you know, we are working on potential ideas that will probably work up in some sort of workshops a little bit further once we've ironed out a few elements. But yeah, definitely trying to create like a wider NHS appreciation, just because, as you said, you know, digital is part of everyone's role. It's not just, oh, those little geeks in the corner working on their computers. Everyone's got an element of it. So being able to use a methodology such as this to again see how people develop over time if they want to, yeah, it's just been a really helpful tool so far. Oh, sorry, Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. I think we can all agree that some fantastic work goes on behind the scenes, and the projects that they've been working on are going to have such an effect on everybody across the trust. We'd like to thank you for coming today. We do have an improvement showcase being held on the 20th of October. There's a QR code up on that board there if you would like to attend and book your tickets. It's from 9 till 2. Lunch is provided. And there's also information via the hub for those on Teams who wish to book. And I thank you again for coming, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.